So the All Blacks are about to be in action for the first time in 2024, a two-match series up against the English, the first of which taking place in Dunedin. And in this video, we are going to be trying our best to predict the All Blacks starting lineup and reserves. Of course, the first under Razor's coaching, so it's going to be an intriguing one to see what they go with, whether or not it's going to be predictable or whether there's going to be a few bolters and perhaps unpredictable selections that do take place as well. But it is myself and it is Rugbyitch. First match in Dunners. How do you think this one's going to go? England already having their warm-up. Of course, this is the first game for the ABs.
Yeah, I mean, they'll be a lot more prepared going into this game, of course, with that warm-up against Japan, which they looked pretty good, actually, in that game. I just think the All Blacks, it's like you said, it's a sort of a new cycle. You know, it's under Razor now. Like, I'm actually really looking forward towards this series, just to see how Razor does overall. So I'm looking forward towards this game, and yeah, I think the All Blacks will be a good All Blacks England will be a good test overall.
Well, the intriguing part is Razor going to go with some similarities to what we saw with Ian Foster, or are we going to see a whole new look? Already we have seen a few young players added into the All Blacks. I'm going to start with the front row though for yourself. Have you gone with some of the debutants, or have you gone with the experience here for the All Blacks?
Yeah, no, I've gone with the experience. I've gone with like Ethan de Groot as a number 1. I've gone with Cody Taylor at the number 2, and then Tyrell Lomax as a number 3. I just think you got to go with those 3 just because that was the front row that the All Blacks had throughout that Rugby World Cup and in that final. So I think just those 3 alone, they understand how to play with each other. They're pretty good from a scrum position, which is important, particularly under Razor and Jason Ryan. So I think those are the 3 that I would personally go with, and I think it's very likely that's the 3 that they'll go with as well. So yeah, that's the front row there.
Well, for myself, I've gone with the only Highlander in the All Blacks as my number 1, that being Ethan de Groot, Cody Taylor at 2, and number 3, Tyrell Lomax. So I have got the same as yourself. I do like the idea of Asafo Moore coming off the bench and adding a real impact with that physicality and bulldozing nature that man brings. Cody Taylor, the consistency at lineout, I think is what's going to give him that little bit of an edge throughout the season for the All Blacks. And even though at times it was a bit shaky for the Crusaders, I know that since he returned near the end of the season, the lineout accuracy for the Satyrs actually did drop a little bit, which was a bit unheard of. But luckily, I feel like that's only going to be a couple pre-match nerves, and then all of a sudden, Cody Taylor will be back rearing to go. But that combination, Ethan de Groot and Tyrell Lomax, of course, one that Ian Foster did go with, one that seemed to build up a little bit of credibility for the All Blacks last season. So let's see whether or not they do go with it once again. But now we move on to the locks. Now, I'll be honest, this is very tricky to pick the locks because they have only got 3 options for the All Blacks. They only went with the 3 rather than the possibility of 4 or 5, like some were predicting. For myself, I have gone with the captain, Scott Barrett, at number 4, hesitantly, because I feel like he could also be a 6 in this English series.
Oh, I would hate that. We don't need to do this.
Would you hate it in a good way or a bad way?
In a bad way. Like I don't want to see a lock used as a 6. That's not what New Zealand is about. And again, with them only having 3 actual locks, if they actually do that, like it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense if they do that.
That's probably a fair shout.
Yeah.
So that's why I did it. No, I'm kidding. I've got Scott Barrett as my number 4. Number 5, I went with Patrick Tuipulotu. Now, both of those men have been playing very well at 4, which is why it's so tricky. Yeah. So that is probably why I was a bit hesitant, because I thought Tuipulotu 4, Tupavai 5, Scott Barrett 6 could work a little bit, but I don't know whether or not Razor would want to try it. But yeah, Tuipulotu, great season for the Blues. Both of these two have had their own injuries throughout the last season, so hopefully they are both match fit. And that's the combination that I've gone with for the All Blacks.
Yeah, no, I've gone with the exact same 2 as you here. I've gone with Scott Barrett at number 4, and then Patrick Tuipulotu at number 5. So, yeah, I think you got to go with those 2. I mean, like, you're right that Tupavai can play as number 5. And that's kind of what he's been playing throughout most of the season for the Chiefs. So it could actually make sense to put him there. I just think you got to reward Patrick for what he did within that final, and kind of just the way he kind of the resilience he really had, kind of just kind of come back for that game, and then just be available for the All Blacks. And you got to reward him, I think. So that's the reason why I've started him in this game.
Well, speaking of rewards, the loose forward trio, there were certain players that missed out on the selection. In
big
fact, there were so many that could have made their way in. You look at someone like a Peter Lakai or a Hoskins Satutu. That, of course, has caused a lot of controversy throughout the last week or so, mixing opinions. But they have still got some very strong loose forwards available for the All Blacks in this series. So who are the three that you've gone with in the starting lineup?
Yeah, well, I mean, with those kind of exclusions, kind of like you mentioned there, I think it makes it a lot easier. I think in terms of selecting this loose forward trio, I think you got to go with Simi Finau as number 6. Like, he's the standout 6, I think, throughout this year within Super B, and he is kind of like the number 1 option, I believe, that the All Blacks will look at, because he also offers you the kind of line-out ability as well. So he's my number 6. In terms of number 7, I've gone with Dalton Papali'i, number 7. I mean, he's been very impressive for the Blues this year. I wouldn't say as good in previous seasons, because he had 1 year where he was like probably like the MVP really of 1 year, but he's had a decent season for the Blues, and I think he's just been very consistent throughout and has done his job. So I think he deserves to kind of go into the number 7 jersey, because again, he's not had a lot of opportunity with Sam Cane there being for such a long time. So I feel it's kind of justified that he kind of gets that chance now. And then, yeah, with the number 8, I've also, of course, gone with Artis Sevilla. So I've gone with Artis Sevilla there, and you just got to. I mean, he's, World Player of the Year. It's Artis Sevilla. There's no doubt about that.
Well, Tim, you said you've got to go with Samipeni Finau as the number 6. Now, of course, we mentioned about it at the start of the video. This is what we think Scott Robertson is going to do.
You're going for the angle here?
I've gone with Ethan Blackadder
I knew it.
as the number 6. Now, that is not personally what I would do, but a lot of people didn't have Ethan Blackadder in their All Black squad in the first place, seeing as he hasn't had a huge amount of minutes. You did. You also had Satutu. Look how that turned out. But
I know.
In terms of... Sorry, that was a bit harsh.
You're not gonna let that go. I just every video, guys, we look at the All Blacks. We're gonna name him. It's gonna get worse for me. It's gonna remind me of all these flashbacks. But yes.
But yeah, I thought Scott Robertson, he might end up going with Ethan Blackadder somewhere in that loose forward trio, just because, like I said, a lot of people didn't think he was even getting into the squad, and I feel like Razor rates him highly, so maybe he gets that opportunity as the number 6 in this first match up against the English, just because of that work rate as well. Like, while he's not injured, he is very strong out there on the field. It's just whether or not he ends up injured by the end of the contest. Dalton Papali'i, the man that I've gone with at number 7, he's shown that he doesn't get injured too often, made over 200 tackles throughout Super Rugby Pacific for the Blues. And then number 8, Ardie Savea. I mean, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because if you're playing Ardie Savea as a number 8, of course he's probably got that jersey. But if you're playing Ardie Savea as a 7, all of a sudden that opens up the door for someone like a Wallace Satiti to go in there.
If Sevilla as a 7, that I'm gonna get frustrated by it. Like, it's just like. But by the way, if he does do that and then they go Wallace Satiti, that would be awesome to see Wallace Satiti get the opportunity. But that'd also just be like, wow. Like, they could have, if they've done that, then they should have picked another 8, really, because in that case they would have then considered Sevilla as a 7. But again, they've selected a lot of options. You can cover that 7 spot with Papali'i, Jacobson, Ethan Blackadder. I mean, there's a ton. So yeah, I would be surprised, but yeah, I think Sevilla is the sure thing 8.
We'll have to wait and see whether or not Razor thinks the same thing. Now the backline. This is where it gets quite tricky. There's only 14 players to select from, and 7 of them will be in this lineup, but it's very hard to pick who are the 7 that are missing out. Now for me, as the 9-10 combination, I have gone with the experience here in one of the positions and also gone with, I guess you could say, the form in the other. So I've gone with TJ Perenara as my starting number 9. Controversially, some people feel like maybe TJ has passed it, but I think throughout the season for the Hurricanes, what he was able to do, you know, he's looking in some terrific form at the moment. I think you need that experience out there on the park up against the English, and then you can unleash one of the younger guys off the bench, I believe, is the better way of doing it. Definitely for the first, maybe second match, you do see TJ coming off the bench or maybe completely missing out, depending on how the All Blacks do end up going.
That'd be a tough
It would be. But you never know. It's Scott Robinson. We don't know what his tactics are at this stage. He could put out a lineup that everyone's like, ugh, why would he do that? But if it wins, you know,
everyone's pleased.
Everyone will be happy. But moving on to number 10. For myself, I have gone with Damian McKenzie. He's got a lot of points throughout the Super Rugby Pacific season. He would have the kicking tee in my All Blacks side as well with this starting lineup. I feel like that combination of TJ and Damien could be a very handy one for the All Blacks.
Yeah, no, that's a nice combination with a lot of experience as well. So I like that a lot. Again, to me, I've only made one change to you here, and I actually have gone with Finlay Christie as number 9. I just think the reason why I'm choosing him really ahead of TJ Perenara, because I think it really is between those two, I'd say, for this opening test against England. Again, they may introduce Corti Satama maybe within the second test or even off the bench for this one. You just don't know. But I think it is really between these two to start. And the reason why I've gone with Christie ahead of TJ Perenara is solely because of his box ticking. Like, that's what he's known for, really. And when you're going against England, like, they're just going to put you under the high ball so many times. And I just feel more comfortable with Finlay Christie's accuracy in terms of his box ticking than TJ Perenara. That's really all it comes down to, guys. I mean, both of them had excellent seasons for their respective clubs. I just think that for an England game, I would choose Finlay Christie. But if you're going like in a Bok game, for example, I would choose TJ Perenara. I just think he just gives you that experience and that type of game. So for that reason alone, I've gone with Finlay Christie here. And then similar to you, I have partnered up in the number 10 spot with Damien McKenzie. So McKenzie, I just feel like he deserves the number 10 spot. I mean, he's been in the sideline for a while, kind of waiting to get that 10 jersey, and I think he just deserves it. Like, there's not much more I can say. Like, he 100% deserves this number 10 jersey. He's been been waiting kind of behind Richard Mongo for a long time. And yeah, I kind of hope he kind of just grasps it. Removes all those haters that don't want to be in that 10 jersey. Like, that's his now. That's his. Just make it your own. And yeah, looking forward to see what he can do in that 10 jersey.
I just had a thought, Tim. You know how Beauden Barrett's in the squad?
No.
Can you imagine the outroar if Damien McKenzie once again has to give way for Beauden Barrett?
Look, I love Beauden Barrett, by the way. I love Beauden Barrett. But I just feel it would be so unfair to McKenzie if that were the case. Like, I can understand, because, like, again, there is the idea where both of them may play in the same team, of course, in terms of the starting lineup. But, like, to have it the other way around in terms of Beauden's at the 10 and then you put McKenzie as a 15, if that's the scenario you want to put it in, it just makes no sense, because McKenzie's been playing as the 10 for the Chiefs throughout this year. And Beauden, yes, he's been very good for the All Blacks, but like, do you want him in that 10 jersey again? I just wouldn't. I want to try something new. It's a new cycle. Let's have McKenzie in there. So that's the reason why he's there.
Yeah, of course, trying to build towards that 2027 Rugby World Cup, which is already getting closer. I think we're only about 3 years away now from that World Cup taking place, which is pretty crazy, but I'm sure it will come around well and truly before we know it. Looking at the centres in this contest, for yourself, 12 and 13, there are 4 real options here. Geordie Barrett, Rico Ioane, Anton Leonard-Brown, and Billy Proctor. So what combo have you put out there on the field for the All Blacks here?
Yeah, I think this is the easiest decision, really. If you just go with Geordie Barrett, Rico Ioane. Just keep it simple. Those are the two. Like, it's one of those where I think when it's the first test, we have to remember this is the first test. Like, you can make some changes. I would say going to the second, like, that's where you can consider if you want to put like Anton Brown or Billy Proctor, because both of them have been excellent, like, for their teams, like, excellent for what they've done this year. But you just got to go with that experience. I just think, like, with those two playing in that final, like, they understand each other, how they play, and that was the combination the All Blacks went with throughout the Rugby World Cup. So I believe Razor will continue that going into this game.
And that is the same combination that I have gone with. I do hope to see Ioane score more tries than he did for the Blues throughout Super Rugby Pacific. Of course, has gone over 400 days now without a try at Super Rugby level. Geordie Barrett, he managed to score himself 5. I could see your soul slowly burning when I said that, when I mentioned about Rico not scoring. I know he's your favourite player. I could see the hate in your eyes too.
I understand it, by the way. Like, and I actually can't even think of the last time he scored a try for the All Blacks. Not to, like, put him, like, down. I'm just trying to think, like, I think the last one I remember was Italy. I think was Italy? No, in that game? It could have been.
You might be right there. For a player who we talk about so much as a try-scoring threat, he hasn't got a lot of them in recent times, has he?
It's because they have other players. So this is the thing about Reiko, is that he's like, what he gives you in that position is speed. That is the number one thing he gives you over any other of the centers that they've selected. But at the same time, like, when you have to consider the other players that, yes, I know I'm talking about players that aren't playing this game, but when you have like Will Jordan, or you have like Cameron Roygard, or you have like players who are like unbelievable in terms of what they can bring towards your side. Like I just think that you're going to utilize these players a lot more, and they're going to be in the better position to score those tries than kind of what they've done. Because I feel like how the All Blacks play in a weird way, like throughout history, really, you could say, is that the centers haven't been kind of like the focal point in terms of scoring tries. It's always been the wingers or the fullbacks. So it's kind of expected that it's kind of the way they'll go about it. But I do like the way how the All Blacks have gone about this. And again, we have to credit Ian Foster here. Like the one thing I thought was pretty good from what he did was putting Geordie at the 12 and Rego at the 13. Like again, like it's a good combination. It's worked out pretty well. So it'll be interesting to see if Reza does change it, because again, this is part of a new cycle. So I actually wouldn't be surprised. Like I wouldn't be surprised, because it's you want to try some things, but the question is, do you want to do it in this test? I just don't think it's very risky to do it in your first test. That's all I'd say.
Yeah. And Rieko Ioane, of course, even though he hasn't scored too many tries, he has got a few try assists throughout that season, setting up the men on the outside and also making a few running meters. Geordie Barrett, I feel like his kicking, not so much off the kicking tee, but more so the up and unders throughout this game. The torpedo kick as well is going to be extremely handy up against the English in the territory battle. So that is why I've gone with that exact same combination as my 12 and 13 here as well. But now moving on to the back three. Number 11, I've gone with Caleb Clark. Now, I know he ended up with a rib injury in that Super Rugby Pacific final, but I believe he is all right, and he is going to be available for this contest. I think he had a phenomenal Super Rugby Pacific season, and there are still people who say he shouldn't be there, which I do find surprising. When you look through at the stats, people say that his defence lets him down, but then you look through and he's got better tackling than Rieko, then Amoni Narua, then Stevenson, then Love, then Talia, then pretty much anyone that you can look at in the back line. He's done a lot over the off-season as well to try and get himself back into that All Blacks, which you can see when he plays out there on the field, having a huge amount of running meters, over 1,000 throughout Super Rugby Pacific. I'm sure you enjoyed every single one of them, being a Blues supporter.
I'm just remembering every moment of his throughout this year. Like, it's just, there's so many good ones. So yeah, he's I like the selection.
Thank you. 14. You may not like it as much because I haven't gone with Mark Talia here. I've gone with Sevu Reece out on that wing.
Unbelievable.
Which is an interesting choice because, of course, Reece normally for the Crusaders has been playing 11, but I feel like the combination of Clark and Reece out on either wing I think would work pretty well. And to be honest, the reason that I didn't go with Talia was just that handling. You know, he's had a huge amount of drop balls a lot. Now, the benefit that they may actually look at is the fact that this game is being played in Dunedin, so at least there won't be rain to contend with, because any game that's involved rain and Mark Talia's played in it, you'll know this as a Blues fan, the bloke just can't catch the ball when that happens. Unfortunately,
it also makes him more slippery. So it actually helps him.
It would make him a lot more slippery, but he has to hang on to it first so that he can run with the ball. But yeah, I'd go with Sevu Reece. I feel like Razor probably would go with Sevu somewhere in the starting lineup, or maybe off the bench as that number 23. Number 15. This is where it gets a little bit interesting. I've gone with Stephen Perofeta because he was listed in the outside backs, whereas Beauden Barrett was listed in the fly halves, which would straight away make me think that they are seeing Stephen Perofeta as their first choice fullback, which I was quite curious about. So I'm going to go with him there, thinking that that is what Scott Robertson is going to be doing in this matchup, which, of course, once again, will make you very happy as a Blues supporter.
I mean, I like it. It's one of those where I'll get onto him very shortly. But in terms of number 11, I have also gone with Caleb Clark. I mean, you just got to go with him. He is the sure thing in terms of he had the best season out of all the wingers. Like, there's no question about that. It's really it's that 14 position where you can make a lot of arguments. There's so many good arguments for all of them. I think like Mark Talia, I've never really considered him just because of his form. I think when he's actually had a pretty good season. So I'm being harsh on him saying that he hasn't been his form hasn't been the best, but I'm just comparing it to previous seasons as well as kind of the form of the other two players here, Amoni Narua and Sevu Reece. I just think that those two have had slightly better seasons. But again, Talia's done his bit for the Blues this year, so I can't knock him down. But I think it's really between Amoni Narua and Sevu Reece, and I do have Sevu Reece in here, guys. I have selected Sevu Reece. But I am questioning myself because I think Amoni Narua, when you're thinking it on a whole, actually, I think he has probably had a better season than Sevu Reece. But that's also just to take into account like the team as well that he's on and kind of the season that the Chiefs have had. So I think you got to kind of reward him in that aspect. But just similar to you, I think Severese is just, it's Razor's guy, but also just he's had a good year. Yeah, he scored 12 tries, so I think you just got to reward that. So that's the reason why I have also gone with Severese at number 14. And then with number 15, I have actually gone with Beauden Barrett here. So I actually have made the bold decision to go with Beauden Barrett. I know again this may ruffle a few feathers. We'll have to wait and see, but it's one of those where it comes down to how they kind of consider Stephen Perifetta, who is what you've mentioned already, like how they have set him as a kind of a 15 option. That's kind of the way they see him at. So I wouldn't not be surprised if he is the starting 15, because we have to remember that Liam McDonald is the one who decided these kind of positions here in terms of the wingers / kind of fullbacks. And, with his time at the Blues, he saw a lot of moments where Stephen Perifetta kind of shine in that 15 jersey. And he was there also when Beauden was at the 10. So he's probably more familiar with that combination where Beauden's at the 10, Perifetta at the 15, than vice versa. So it does make sense actually to go with Perifetta, but I just think experience counts for so many years. So that's the reason why I've gone with Beauden Barrett. It's just purely from an experience standpoint. But actually, like in my heart, I would love if Perifetta was the star in this game. So it would be cool to see. But I have gone with the experience there, so I've gone with Beauden Barrett.
Alrighty, so now we have the reserves as the remainders. Now, I had to ask the question, of course, for the Springboks one, whether it was a 6-2 split or not. I assume you've gone 5-3 for the All Blacks this first match up against England.
No, I've gone with 7-1, man. What do you want about it?
7-1?
1. Yeah, no,
nice.
5-3.
5-3, okay. Under the roof, tell you what, it's going to be chilly though. Like there might be a couple guys get hypothermia down in Dunedin. It is not very warm down there at this time of the year. Yeah, looking at your front row replacements of your 7-1, who have you gone with in the front row?
Well, I have gone with a 5-3, just to be clear. But for the props and for the hooker, I have gone with Langstaff Sophomore as my number 16 option there. I have then gone with Offerton Ofasi as the loose head, and then Tamati Williams as the tight head. So it's again, there's some tough calls there, but I think like it's justified because again, like Sophomore has been, he's been the standout hooker throughout this year for Super Beast. So you just got to reward him. And again, when you're kind of choosing between him and George Bell, I'm just more comfortable with him in terms of his line of accuracy compared to George Bell. Like he's just more there to kind of gain experience, I think, in terms of this training camp, be with these players, and kind of he could be available for that Fiji test. We'll have to wait and see. But for now, Sophomore gets off the bench. Offerton Ofasi, he's been brilliant this year. Like he said, 5 or 6 tries to his name, which is incredible. So yeah, he definitely is there. And then Tamati Williams, it's Tamati Williams. He just offers you that scrum, which is like unbelievable off the bench. And I did see that against the Blues, and it hurt me. So it's gonna hurt the English in this one. So that's what he's gonna bring. So yeah.
So very similar front row for myself. Safa Moore is the number 16. Number 17, Ofa Toangafasi, like you mentioned, had a standout season for the Blues in that front row. Number 18, I've gone with Fletcher Newell. Now, of course, he is also very strong with his scrummaging. Okay. So I've decided to give him that crack off the bench. Tamati Williams, of course, could be there, but I believe that they'll be actually picking him more than likely as a loose head prop with the fact that they have got Basilio Tosi and the available players as well. But now moving on to the other 2 forward replacements, 2 Chiefs for myself, Tupavai as the number 19 and Samapini Finau there as number 20. Now, Finau's an interesting one.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure really why I've put him there, to be honest, now that I look through, because I feel like someone like a Luke Jacobson could be a better option off the bench as the number 20, just to add that bit more versatility and have him more readily available in the loose forward trio. So I'm actually going to switch that. I'm going to go to Luke Jacobson instead as my number 20.
You want to discipline off the bench? Is that something you want?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. 23 penalties throughout the season for Luke Jacobson.
That's
but saying that, Samapini Finau also knows a thing or two about getting a yellow card, so I feel like I'm not gaining that much more. If Luke Jacobson averages 1.5 penalties per game, if he's only playing half of the game, that's less than 1 penalty, so that's a bonus. Yep. Quick maths. Yep. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Luke Jacobson as my number 20.
Quick maths here, guys. But, in terms of off the bench here for me, I have gone with Tupavai as well off the bench, and then I've gone with Ethan Blackadder to finish it off in terms of the kind of forwards there. Because, again, he can cover that 6 or 7. And if needed, he can actually cover the 8. He's played there a few times in his career, so, you can play all 3.
Very handy. Versatility. Word
exactly.
of the day.
Versatility. Come on.
Well, we've got versatility in the forward replacements. Have you got versatility in the back replacements?
100%.
Who are your 3 men? 100%. That's the
100%.
spirit.
Exactly.
Who you got?
Well, I've gone with TJ. So, I mean, that position probably doesn't give you a lot of versatility because it covers the scrum.
Can play fly half, though, TJ.
Could he? Well, there you go. There you go. That's the reason why I
little
selected him there, guys. That's the reason why I selected him. TJ as a 9-10 cover. That does kind of go a bit weird. I kind of go against my decision here because I have gone with Stephen Perifetta as the next one. So I guess he's just coming the 15, I guess, if TJ's covering the 10. So, but I guess you can cover the 10, I guess, you know. Perifetta can cover the 10. So I have gone with him off the bench there. And then to finish it off, I have gone with Anton Brown because, again, he can cover that 13, 12, as well as the winger spots if needed. So there's the versatility, and that's what he gives you.
Alrighty, so for myself, I have got 21, Finley Christie. Number 22, Bowden Barrett. Bit of versatility there. And then number 23, I have gone with Anton Leonard-Brown. Just like yourself, standout season. The bloke's got to get some minutes for the All Blacks this year. I don't think you can start him and Geordie Barrett, though. I think they're a little bit too similar in the way that they do attack.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I'll be interested to see whether or not he can earn himself some starting minutes throughout this English series, as well as, of course, that matchup against the Fijians taking place in the USA. But that is going to be the end of this lineup prediction that we think Scott Robertson will be going with in this contest up against England. Do let us know in the comments who you think will be in the starting lineup and reserves as well. Sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out Rugbyitch. His link will be in the description as well as the comment section. Thank you all very much for tuning in, and we will see you all for the next one.